starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you. I'd like to convene the Single Family Design Board, December 21st, 2020. May I have roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call. Chair Miller.
Here.
Vice Chair James.
Here.
Board Member Farrell.
Here.
Board Member Motisha. Board Member Motisha, I see you, but I do not hear you.
Oh, I'm on my end. I'm here, yes.
Thank you. Board Member Richards.
Here.
Board Member Sweeney.
Here.
Board Member Ziegler.
Here.
That is everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to general business, public comment. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within its jurisdiction. That is not scheduled on this agenda for the public discussion. Do we have any public comment? Ms. Burkhart.
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on an item not on today's agenda, please follow the directions on screen and raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates that you wish to speak. Heidi, did we receive any written comment for items not on today's agenda?
Thank you, Barbara. And through the chair to the rest of the board, we did receive one letter of written correspondence for items not on this agenda, and it was distributed to the board prior to this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Chair Miller, there are no hands raised, so I will hand it back to you.
All right, thank you. Moving to the approval of the minutes for the Single Family Design Board for December 7th, 2020. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I make that approval. Motion.
Thank you. All right, thank you. And let's go through the items, please. (712) Arbolado Road, excuse me. (2339) Edgewater Way. (1239) East Coda Street. (1241) East Coda Street. Okay, hearing no changes, may I have roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call vote. We will start with Board Member Farrell.
Yes.
Board Member Motisha.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney.
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
Vice Chair James.
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the approval. Yes.
Chair Miller and board members, pardon the interruption. I just wanted to confirm who was the first, who made the motion, and who was the seconder. It wasn't quite clear.
I made the motion. Motisha made the motion. Approved.
Okay, Motisha made the motion, and James seconded it. Thank you.
All right, approval of the consent calendar for December 14th. May I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Who's that?
Fred. So moved.
Thank you. Okay, Joe second. Thank you. Ted, can you go through the items, please? I believe it's you, Ted.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Okay, item A was 3429 Sea Ledge Lane, and It was on for a concept review and it was continued indefinitely to the full board with comments. Item B was 34 East Pedregosa Street, and it was also on for a concept review and it was continued indefinitely to the full board with a comment. And then item C was 2414 Anacapa Street, and it was on for PDA and final approval, and it was continued indefinitely with comments. Oh, sorry, there's one more. Item D, 84 La Vista Grande, was on for review after final, and it was postponed 1 week. And we had board member Richards and Chair Miller reviewing.
Thank you. Hearing no comments or changes, may I have roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Reds. I'll begin the roll call vote. We'll start with Board Member Motisha,
Here. Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler,
Yes.
Vice Chair James,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to approval of the consent calendar for December 21st. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I move to approve.
I will
Thank you.
second the motion.
Okay, did you get that, Ted?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, great.
All right. Item A was 876 Paseo Ferrello. The motion was for project design approval with findings. And item B was 1479 Lou Dillon Lane. Motion was for project design approval and final approval. And item C was 84 La Vista Grande, which received approval of review after final. And we had board members Motisha and Richards reviewing the first item, and then Richards and Chair Miller reviewing the next 2 items on today's agenda.
All right, thank you. May I have a roll call, please? Oh, sorry. Yes, Mr. Motisha.
Ted, did you forget the A? No, I'm sitting here staring at it and I didn't hear you say anything about the first applicant, the A one. A.
He
Went
did.
B.
He did.
Did he?
Yeah.
It was 876 Paseo Ferrello, and it received project design approval.
Okay, I'm dreaming. Sorry, thank you. I'm getting old.
Join the club. Yeah, roll call, please. Hello?
Mr. Chair, I'm so sorry. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call. Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler,
Yes.
Vice Chair James,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants or continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals. Do we have any of those, please?
I'd like to make an announcement. That's all right.
Yes, Board Member Richards, please. Yes.
Well, I re-interviewed with the city council to renew the term, and they had chosen 2 other applicants. There were 2 vacancies, and 3 of us were applying, and so they chose the other 2 applicants. So this would be my last meeting today, and I discussed with Brian that we'd received an email from Jan that she was going to be leaving from the board. And so I discussed with Irma to see if the board and if the city council would be interested in having me fill Jan's vacancy, that I would be open to that. I haven't heard if that's a possibility, so I don't know where that goes. At this time, I believe this is my last meeting. And then I also wanted to express kind of like a concern about the city council appointing just one landscape professional to our board, because I believe Lisa is leaving as well. And, you know, I think it's pretty important to have two landscape professionals on this board, as we always need to have one for consent. And if there's just one landscape professional, they're going to be obligated to being at every meeting, and if they need to recuse themselves, and that may create some complications. I just would encourage the staff and the board to consider that having two landscape professionals is probably an important thing. And if I don't have the opportunity to come back to the board, I just want to say it's been great to work with you all and to review the projects, and it's been a learning experience. And I think you're all pretty cool people, so thank you.
Is that the tendency of the city council to bypass incumbent?
Irma, do you have anything you want to say about that, please?
I just want to say something really briefly. I don't want to turn this into a discussion because it was not on the agenda. And no, you know, it's really at the pleasure of the council. I mean, for the most part, we do see that they appoint the incumbents or reappoint incumbents, but not always. And so I can't really speak to what happened in this case with board member Richards. And, you know, I do understand his disappointment and frustration. I have received Jan's resignation. We've sent that up to the city clerk's office. I will be consulting with them to see if there's, you know, the possibility of board member Richards assuming her position. However, there's no guarantee, and I believe the attorney's office is the one that chimes in based on the resolution that they have. But I did want to take this opportunity to thank board member Richards, Vice Chair James, and board member Farrell for their service. Just, you know, the time and hours spent on this design board. We really appreciate it, and we wish nothing but the best for you. And I will, you know, as I said, continue to consult with the city clerk's office and keep you in the loop.
Thank you, Irma.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I have a question from Irma, and I understand this is not an agenda item, but this is important to this board. We have to understand what's going on. So I'd like a couple of clarifications. It's my understanding, or was my understanding, that our positions go, because this board was founded in a different time sequence, the terms went from June to June, as I understood it, because I was appointed in June, and my term has been going from June to June. So the two new people that have been appointed, when did they take their positions?
They take their positions on January, the first meeting in January.
So the term has now shifted to a calendar year, not from June to June. Is that correct?
I think just for these particular positions, because of the resignations that came about before the recruitment.
So we have a resignation, and Lisa, I can't remember whether you put it in writing or not, but I remember you saying you were going to leave at the end of this calendar year. So that's one that was taken to action at the time of the council appointment of these two folks. Jan's we just received, or at least I think we just received earlier in the week. So does council or city attorney's office understand that those two resignations didn't come under the knowledge of the council? One may have, Lisa's, so that maybe we get some clarification on that. And then certainly the question I have in order to operate as a board, do we not have to have 5 members always present? Or is it 4?
It's 4 members for a quorum. There does have to be at least one, I was going to say attorney, I meant architect. When you approve a project, there has to be at least one architect in attendance. So there.
Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
I apologize. Can I say, is it a licensed architect or a licensed landscape architect? We keep running
It's a
into
licensed architect. It's a licensed architect. And I don't have the actual breakdown for your board. All the design boards are a little different. You know, the HLC has 9 members. So theirs is a little different in terms of their makeup. But I can follow up and send you the actual verbiage for the SFDB, unless Mr. Hamilton has it.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Nzueta and Mr. Chair and board members. If I'd like to steer us away from a discussion on this at this point, since this is just announcements period. But just for clarification's sake, a quorum for the single family design board is 4 members, 2 of whom shall be either a licensed architect or a licensed landscape architect, constitute a quorum. And that's from the SFDB guidelines.
So Ted, that was 1 each, correct, at each meeting? A landscape and an architect. Is that what you just said?
They shall be either a licensed architect or a licensed landscape architect. So it could be.
So it's either one. It's not.
Yes.
And then the rules, the way the SFDB board is configured, there only has to be 1 licensed landscape architect on the board. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, but certainly Mr. Hamilton is checking right now.
Okay, so all of those things, Ms. Nzueta, will get sorted out with the city attorney. And I would like some clarification on the term, the yearly term, whether it's calendar year, if it's now switched back to calendar year, or still going from June to June. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's not now.
Okay. Yes,
Yes.
Mr. Mutisha.
Wouldn't be comfortable for me to sit here and next week I discover that Mr. Richards discovered that next week I'm not on the board anymore. With no, I will stop right there.
I have one other question, Mr. Chair. Ms. Nzueta
Yes.
or Mr. Hamilton, are we allowed to know who the names of the new appointees are?
Yeah, it was announced by the city council.
Well, I'll go ahead and answer. So Katie Klein is one of the appointees, and she's a landscape architect, and Leslie Colase, which I believe is a licensed architect, but please confirm, Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you.
Ms. Nzueta, that is my understanding as well. Thank you.
So one thing I need to say is I'm going to be leaving after item number 2. I have a scheduled commitment I have at 4:30 that I need to go to. So item 3, Lisa, you're going to be the chair, item 3 and 4. And I just want to follow up that prior to this current city council, I felt that, we were very supported by them, but I'm feeling now that there's more of an us against them thing going on with the city council and the design review boards. So I'm hoping that climate changes, and that there's a better understanding. Yes, Mr. Sweet.
Oh, before you finish, I have another question. If you're finished, you're done.
Yes.
Okay. And this is to Mr. Hamilton or Ms. Nzueta. Earlier this week, I think our entire board and all the other boards, I assume all the other boards, received Betty Rydell, I think, sent out a notice to all of us that said that the formatting process for applicants for planning has now undergone a change as of, I think, December 10th. And so I went onto the site that was provided and I started to drill down a little bit to see what the changes were. And so my question is, with staff points, a brief explanation or presentation of any changes that would clarify for us as a single family design board our expected outcomes of this new process. And the reason I'm asking is sometimes we've had projects come to us that aren't, at least in our view, not complete in terms of the drawings of the application or whatever. So I just couldn't tell what the new pieces were other than the front end application. And then on the website, there are obviously some new things for accessory dwelling units. So I don't know if there are other changes, and would the staff be coming to us at some point just to kind of highlight things we should be paying attention to? Thank you.
Board Member Sweeney and Chair Miller, yes, the city has produced some new handouts for use by general public, and the idea is to make the process a little bit more straightforward for our applicants. Staff is planning on giving a brief presentation and making an announcement about that beginning next year. And you can look forward to that probably at the first meeting of the year. Thank you, and we should continue with the agenda items. We are a little bit behind, and we do have a couple agendas.
I understand all of that, but I just one last question. Usually by now we get a new calendar for this coming year. Maybe I missed it. But when is our first meeting in January?
Board Member Sweeney and Chair Miller, that would be January 19th. It's a Tuesday meeting.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's moving on to our items. I do not believe we have any subcommittee reports. So let's move on to our scheduled items. Okay, this is a new item for concept review. It's a 3030 Seacliff Drive proposal to demolish the existing one-story single-family residence and construct a new 5,249 square foot, two-story single-family residence within the existing development and structural envelope. Project requires Planning Commission review of proposed amendments to Planning Commission Resolution 011-97 to allow a two-story residence to be constructed. The parcel is located within both the appealable and non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. However, all work is proposed within the non-appealable jurisdiction. The 80,167 square foot lot is located in the Hillside Design District with an average slope of 67%. The proposed total of 5,249 square feet of development is 97% of the guideline maximum floor to lot ratio. Do we have a representative? I believe Mr. Cornell is here to present the project. Thank you. Oh, and no final appealable action will be taken at this hearing. Project requires neighborhood preservation findings and hillside design and slope lot findings. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Cornell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Mr. Cornell, I would just like to make some brief comments to try to direct your review this afternoon of this project. This project is before you today to receive preliminary comments on a new two-story residence where a one-story residence currently exists. In order to receive planning approval, the project would require amendments of a Planning Commission resolution as mentioned in the project description. And this would have to go before Planning Commission, before returning back for PDA. And I would request that if you could focus your comments today on the following aspects. which were also given to you in a memo that was produced on Thursday with the agenda. Number 1 would be the neighborhood compatibility. Number 2 would be the general size, bulk, height, and scale. Number 3 would be the building architecture and style. And then number 4, and this is important, the public viewpoints. The applicant has put together a series of photo simulations, and they would require comments on the potential impacts to public views that this project might have. Those are my comments, and if you have any questions about the planning process with regards to this project, let me know. Thanks, and Mr. Cornell, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So as Ted said, this is exploratory because we're going to have to go to the Planning Commission depending on how we all do today. The lot is 1.8 acres, so it's a large parcel, but you saw in the project description, most of it is very steep. And the Schatz, David and Connie Schott own this and the lot that is to the north of it, and got it subdivided back in the late 90s. I think it was around 97. So you can basically see that parcel to the north. And they built a 1-story house on the parcel. And the lot was conditioned to be a 1-story building. So let's go to the next slide. Actually, you can see before you do that, Timmy, to go back just for 1 second, you can see the footprint of the existing house there that is within the larger area, which is crosshatch, which is what we are proposing for this light. So next slide. So the concept here is to do kind of a classic, traditional Eastern Seaboard cedar clad building where the second floors would be ensconced within the roof structure. So this is a very traditional seaside look. I think this is a potential style that is not necessarily seen a lot in Santa Barbara, but as far as this site is concerned, what I really like about this is that it would really blend with its natural colors, which is something that these East Coast seaside homes often did. You'll slide to the next image below. These were conceptual sketches that I prepared. So this would be the idea of a 1-story veranda, that it would be at that leading edge of the house. And again, most of that second floor is intended to be ensconced within those roof structures. So the next slide are the elevations, which we really just developed out of a model. We have not gone very far at all in the design of this house, just really in order to create the massing for it so we can look at the photo sims. But this will give you some idea technically of what we're looking at, where the largest roof at the very peak might approach that 30-foot height limit. But for the most part, the majority of the roofs would be down around the 24-foot, 25-foot height. And again, the whole building would be clad in not only the roof, but the siding in a cedar shingle look. This site is not, by the way, in the high fire zone, so it's something that we believe that we can do. Next slide. So this is just the streetscape that is requested. It's a little bit hard to see in its tiled pattern, but from the standpoint of the neighborhood, the property is really not very visible. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac street. The house next door, which did not have the 1-story limitation, 3050 Seacliff, is actually a house that we did several years ago. And you can kind of get a sense of what the massing of that is versus what we are proposing on this adjacent site. And you'll be able to see that roughly in these photo sims that we're going to be looking at. Next slide. So these we're going to have to zoom in on, Teddy. They're a little hard. What we've got is on the left is an actual photograph of the vantage point. And then in the middle slide, that is a Google Earth image of what you see today. And then we've used that in order to place the model into the same vantage point. So Timmy, if you could zoom in on the top row, we'll kind of go from left to right. Maybe zoom in on, yeah, there you go. So we can see, you can basically see the parcel at the very end here of Cliff. There are some palm trees that are out at the leading edge, and there's a large eucalyptus tree. It's a little hard to see the structures in this view. So let's move to the right. So from the Google Earth view, you can actually see some of the existing vegetation a little bit better and begin to see the outline of that existing house. Then the next slide. So then this places that exact model precisely on the site as far as being able to see it. And, you know, admittedly, this is tiny, but I think that is the reality of what you'd see in terms of that massing. And we can come back to any of these views and zoom in on them a little closer if you'd like, but just in the interest of time, let's keep going. Next row, Timmy. So this is back more at the intersection of Las Positas and Cliff. So you can see, you can now here really see that large eucalyptus that is on the parcel to the north of the existing house. That would remain. All of this vegetation that you see would remain. Next slide over. So here you can kind of see the eucalyptus. It sort of got turned into some kind of a digital something there, and the edge of the existing house. Next slide. Then again, using our tools to graphically place that scale of that existing house or the proposed house onto the actual site itself. So you can see that leading edge is that one-story veranda element. Let's go to the lower row. This is from Hendry's. So looking back up, an actual photograph. You can see that one-story structure that nestles right now into the site, the eucalyptus tree that's on the northern side of that house and those palm trees. So those are all good markers. Let's go over to the Google digital image. And then finally, let's go to the image where we've superimposed the house onto that site. So although it is visible, I think we feel that what is really visible here is predominantly the roof, the steep sloped roof of the house, and that really will blend quite well with the natural colors of the bluffs here. Let's go to the next sheet now. These are even going to be a little harder to see, so I won't spend a lot of time, but you can see the parcel from Elings. So we're looking across here, basically almost at the exact same level. You can sort of see the that adjacent residence in this piece. There's a little spire that is just visible. And again, that eucalyptus. So let's slide over to the Google image. So the Google image actually gives you a better sense of that adjacent neighboring house. It has a slate roof, by the way. And then the photo sim slide. And then you can see our house sort of superimposed into that viewpoint. And then finally, we took it from a further vantage point off of Elings. I'm not even sure we need to look at this, but just to demonstrate that it is that point. In fact, right where those ridges kind of come together, you can see that eucalyptus in the horizon. So that's where it would be visible from the very top of Elings. And I'm not sure, we can go ahead and slide. You're not going to see much in these other views here. So slide all the way over, Timmy, and let's see what we can see. I mean, it's obviously a little blip from this vantage point. So again, what we're looking for is how you feel about this particular style in this location. I do think it's important to point out that I'm assuming we're going to move forward with this based on a specific design because I'm not sure any two-story structure on this site would be appropriate. I think it's got to be designed in such a way that it really does blend and harmonizes. It's one of the reasons why we've selected the style that we have, so that most of that structure really looks like roof and not like two-story massing. I don't think it would be appropriate to put a two-story Spanish house in this location. So I think we'd obviously then like your comments to help us move forward towards seeing the Planning Commission about this condition amendment. I think that concludes my remarks. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
And Mr. Cornell and also Mr. Chair and board members, we do have the 20 closest lots map and an Excel spreadsheet if you would like to look at it that does a pretty good job of comparing the houses, the proposed house's size in relation to neighboring properties, just in case you'd like to look at it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cornell. Did we get any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please follow the directions on screen and raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates that you wish to speak. While we wait for that, Heidi, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara, and to the board. No, we did not receive any written correspondence on this item. Back to you.
Thank you. Chair Miller, there are no hands raised, so I will hand it back to you for questions.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll just go down the list of board members who have questions. Board member James, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, Chair Miller. Mr. Allen, will there be any attempt to screen the house from the area beyond the wrapping porch, which obviously extols the views? Can we see one of the elevations that shows the house?
Maybe the render
on the bluff.
Oh, the first sheet. Yeah. I think the first sheet, Timmy, with a site plan would probably be the best.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That would be on the eastern side where you can, it looks very, that portion looks apparent from the simulations that you showed us. So I'm just curious, besides what looks like one oak or no, it's the eucalyptus, will there be any other large screening?
Well, obviously the view from up here is extraordinary because you're right over Hendry's Beach and looking straight across at the Douglas Family Preserve. The landscaping that is outside of that proposed footprint, which was dictated in the original approval, by the way, would all remain. So there is some brush there. There are those palm trees that we saw in the image, obviously the eucalyptus tree. So there's no intent to really do any additional screening there. It's not impossible. And there may be some strategic areas where we might put some natural landscaping, but we really do imagine that it's pretty natural beyond that footprint, and pretty much following what is there now. It's possible that we may, you can see actually the second line there, there's a structural envelope, which is where the proposed footprint is, and then there's also a development envelope.
Mm-hmm.
So we have discussed the possibility of having a small pool there between the structural envelope and the proposed or the development envelope. We still have to basically, refine that concept. But, it's certainly possible that some strategic planting could be placed that would work for the viewing from the house, but as well the viewing from the public.
Thank you. Yes, that was my question. Would you have strategic areas of landscaping? Of course, you don't want to block the view. So, thank you. That's my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Farrell, do you have any questions, please?
I do. So, Mr. Cornell, you mentioned that the house was going to be like a cedar clad on the outside.
Yes.
But what about the roof material? What do you propose for that?
Well, these homes, traditionally, if you look at a lot of these homes, yeah, that's a good one to be on, Timmy. Thank you. In fact, it's fine to look at both of them together. I think it might be helpful. They are typically all cedar. So they have the cedar roof and the cedar shingle siding, and then the trim is typically white. And that is pretty much the architectural palette of this style. So that's what the intent is, that it would be that natural, cedar, weathered cedar color.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, I have some questions on why did if you can't answer it, and Mr. Cornell could maybe, Ted can answer it, why the Planning Commission limited it to a one-story house in the original, back in the late 90s, when the first house was built there. Could you tell me what their thinking was at that time?
Board Member Motisha, Mr. Chair, the Planning Commission resolution is attached to the memo that was sent out to you on Thursday, last Thursday. I would encourage you to review that if you have not done so already. I, at this time, don't have a specific answer on that. I believe it did have to do with public views, but the resolution would be more specific on that. I can try to get it up on screen for you if you would like.
No, that's okay. Next question. 5,000, we only look a real fast look at what the sizes of the 20 houses around you are. And I looked at some of them, but are there any ones that, okay, here, got it up here. Sizes of houses, where were you looking? Total, there you are, we're looking at what, 9? You're the second? No. You're about the third or fourth size down from the biggest. Biggest is 9,000 square foot house. Ooh. And that's the one that you did previously. Is that right, Mr. Cornell?
That's correct.
9,000.
That's next door.
Okay. And
by the way, the reason that number is so high because that house has a basement.
Okay.
So a lot of that square footage is in the basement.
Very good. Okay. And you do have a 97% floor area ratio, which is well above our 85% recommended percentage. I just wanted to make it known and spread the word.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear on that. That is a guideline because obviously with our acreage of 1.8 acres, we're exempted from those, complying specifically to those standards.
You're not really exempt, and we do realize that that's a guideline.
Mr. Motisha, please limit it to questions, and you can say that for comments.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I do like the style, and I do like the fact that you've hidden the second story. And sorry, no, that's not a question. Sorry. Yeah, I'll stop right there.
Okay.
Person.
Are you done, Mr. Motisha, or do you have any more questions?
I am done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Richards, do you have any questions, please?
I think Lisa asked the question I was going to about the landscape. So other than that, I don't have any questions. So we can go on to whoever's next. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Sweeney, do you have any questions, please? Please unmute yourself, Fred.
Sorry, yes, I have several. Let's start with noticing. This project, I assume, I went out there yesterday, the yellow sign is up, but I assume that this got noticed to all the neighbors, or to the 10 closest neighbors at least. Is that true?
Board Member Sweeney, this project did require a mailed notice, and notices were sent to the neighbors within 300 feet.
Okay, and is that noticing under the new rules, is that different than one gets if this were on the Planning Commission, or is it the same noticing requirement?
Board Member Sweeney, I believe it is the same as the Planning Commission. Ms. Unzueta, can you confirm that, please, if you're available?
Yes, Mr. Chair and board members, the noticing requirement for the Planning Commission is also 300-foot radius.
Okay, thank you. The reason I'm asking is in reviewing the 1997 Planning Commission minutes, et cetera, there was a whole slew of neighbors that came out and objected to partially to the two-story house and some other things, but there were a whole lot of neighbors, and several of the names I find familiar because we have reviewed, I think, 5 houses on this street in the last few years, and we've always had very active neighbors chiming in on those applications. So that's the reason I was asking a question. Let me go on to my other questions. Could we go back to the site plan, please? Mr. Cornell, you indicated that this was a lot split from the northerly lot, and maybe you pointed it out when you were making that description. Could you show me that north lot?
On the graphic there, where Timmy's, you can see it.
It's okay. It's where that hand is.
Exactly.
Right there. Okay, great.
Right there.
So we did look at that house and did a review and approval and so forth and so on, and it actually used to be a blue house and you could see from Cliff Drive, and it's now white. So let's go to the site plan because I want to pick up on that whiteness. So if we can go to the site plan, could you, Mr. Cannell, point out to us where that large eucalyptus tree is that we see in several of the photographs?
Right there where Timmy's got his hand.
Okay, so in the simulation photographs you presented, the house is behind that tree, correct?
Correct.
If you look at it from Cliff Drive or Las Positas or wherever. Okay, and then the difference between the structural envelope and the development envelope is that structural envelope is only where buildings can be placed, and the development envelope is only where ground surface changes can be made, including something like a swimming pool, correct?
Well, I'm not sure that's exactly correct. The development envelope was originally placed on the parcel, but then subsequently geology is what governed the structural envelope. So the structural envelope was mandated by the geologists who evaluated the slope and its stability and had that step back even further. So, I will confess that ultimately we're going to require a geologist will have to look precisely at the pool in terms of our ability to put that outside that structural envelope.
Okay, so those envelopes are being dictated by your consultants. That wasn't a condition of the 1997 Planning Commission approval, correct? I couldn't find that.
Well, I don't think it was, but it was on the original 97 plans, that structural envelope. So you can see, obviously, the existing house that Dave and Connie Schott built was conforming to that structural envelope.
So the one-story house that is there now was built after 1997? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the house that under this scenario, you would be tearing down, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then this may be a question to staff, but the limitation for a one-story house was put in place in the 1997 Planning Commission approval, as I read the documents that were sent out last Thursday. And it was also apparently sent to, at some point in that process, to the Coastal Commission at that time. And they also weighed in on the decision of a second story and its visibility for public views, et cetera. So my question is, this is being proposed as an amendment to the Planning Commission. Does that mean you have to commission impact this if this travels back to the Planning Commission, or is it just a very simple single meeting review and approval?
Board Member Sweeney, to the board members, I understood a portion of your question, but unfortunately a little bit of it cut out. It will go back to the Planning Commission, but I think there was some other detail there that you asked.
Yeah. So it's my understanding that 1997 decision stays with the land until it gets changed. And my question is what they're requesting with this proposal, is it a simple amendment, or does it have to go back through the entire Planning Commission process, including a revised environmental impact report?
Board Member Sweeney, my understanding of the process at this point is that it will go back to Planning Commission just for amendments to the original resolution. I don't believe it needs to go back through the entire process at this point.
Okay, and then the second question in terms of the Planning Commission revisit is if this board today gives the applicant some positive comments about acceptability of this second story approach, do we make comments about story poles, or is that under the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission if it travels back with our approval of our recommendation that a second story element is okay? Do they dictate story poles, or do we?
Board Member Sweeney, Planning Commission would dictate the story poles.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Mr. Cornell. You had a photograph coming down Cliff Drive as you approach the Las Positas roundabout. And I drove there. Well, I drive it quite often, but yesterday I went out specifically to look at this site from that vantage point. And having to work under these conditions, it's almost impossible because the photographs are so small. But in real life, you actually see a white horizontal wall somewhere near that big eucalyptus tree, and before it hits those palm trees that you see on the horizon on the left, on the property edge. That white wall that one sees driving down Cliff Avenue, what property does that belong to? Do you know?
Well, I'm not sure, Chair and Mr. Sweeney, what that white wall would be. I'm trying to zoom in.
Yeah, it's hard to see because it's in shadow, but I think if we could get the little hand to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my hunch.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, it's in this photograph. It's almost dark, but you see that? Yeah, right there. That is a white wall in bright daylight in the morning when the sun's on the other side. And we approved the house to the right. See that? The house to the right? Yeah, right in there. We approved that a few years ago. It was a blue house. It had extensive remodeling, re-landscaping, all kinds of stuff. And it's now a white house. So you can't see from the cul-de-sac where that white wall is at the entry gate on the cul-de-sac. So is that white wall part of that northerly house, or is it part of the house
Yes.
that sits there?
I'm virtually certain that it is part of the northerly property and the northerly house, because I'm not aware of any wall. I've looked down the slope from this existing house. I haven't seen any wall, and it looks like, as we look closely here, it is to the right of that eucalyptus.
Okay, and then you had a simulation of your little sketch in behind that eucalyptus tree based on your professional guesstimate. I'm not asking you for specific information, but based on your guesstimate, the top ridge of the roof of what you're proposing, how far up in front of that eucalyptus tree might that be in terms of feet, do you think?
You mean relative to the canopy?
Yeah, no, relative to the trunk of that eucalyptus tree.
Gosh, that's hard. I would say that eucalyptus tree, the foliage probably starts up at least 25 feet above the ground. But yeah, that's my best guess. Fred, is it something like that?
Okay. And let's see. Oh, and in the project description, your RFI, I mean FAR, excuse me, floor area ratio, at 95% or 97, whatever the number was, 97%. It also mentions, do you have a basement? But that's not included in that figure. Is that correct?
I do not have a basement included in the figure. That we haven't gotten, frankly, to that point in the design. I think that it's interesting because we did have the geologist go out and verify that he still felt that structural setback was good, since obviously 20 years has passed since that last testing was done. He recommends a basement just simply to ensure stability on that slope. So it's very likely we would have a basement, but it would be wholly underground, obviously.
Okay, and then one other piece, and I think it's off your site, but I just want to double check. I don't know that we can see it from your Google Earth flat view, but there is an array of solar panels next to blooming bougainvillea that you can see on Cliff Drive as you start to go up from Royal Borough Park. Is that on another property? Do we know?
Yeah, that's on that adjoining parcel. We didn't have anything to do with the placement of those solar panels, but yes, that is on the parcel that is to the west.
All right. And then let's see. I think I've got most of my questions answered. Please. Yeah, I think that covers most of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any questions, please?
I don't think so. I think I generally like and approve the design. I'd like to see it further rolled out, but that's about all I can say at this point.
All right, thank you. Mr. Canal, the plate heights, what were the plate heights we were thinking of for this home?
Well, we want to have 10-foot ceilings at the first floor. So that's really what is governing there. And then the intent is to, again, that second floor is going to be tucked in. So it's actually going to have fairly low plate heights, on the second floor. The rooms will obviously sort of, again, be ensconced by the roof. So they'll be charming little rooms with dormers, that kind of a thing. Again, we haven't refined the design, but that's the intent, is to ensure that we have at least a 10-foot ceiling on the first floor.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's my only question. Seeing that everyone has spoken and had their questions, we'll go back to comments. So I'll go down the list. Board Member James, do you have any comments, please?
Yes. I have a very positive outlook about the style that we haven't really seen that in Santa Barbara so much. And it is very beachy, and I'd approve of that. I'm concerned about the FAR, even though our guidelines say that from the size of your lot, the 85% is negligible at times. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I am concerned about the beacon, just seeing such a beacon on that hill without some attempt at interrupting the mass with strategic planting. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Farrell, do you have any comments, please?
I just want to agree with Lisa James about the design. I find it very aesthetically pleasing, and I like the wraparound porch. And I'm very supportive of the cedar cladding on the outside of the home as well. I think it'll blend in nicely. So that's my comment.
Great, thank you. Board Member Motisha, comments, please?
Yes, I like the design.
You're coming in choppy, Joe.
I apologize for the interruption, Mr. Chair and board members. If everyone who is not speaking could please turn off their microphone, that might help with a little bit of the background noise. Thank you. Continue, Mr. Mc.
Okay, I like the design. And I would agree with the second story and the roof, and the second story hidden, partially hidden within the roof, mostly hidden within the roof. But I would agree with Vice Chair James that it would be nice that we had a lot more landscaping to soften that building on the bluff of that hill, because that I don't agree with. I think we should be able to soften that and still retain the house with the plate heights and the idea and the design of the house. Yeah, with some soft landscaping that blends the house with the hill. Because that hill, you look at, I drive by there every day. I live over there, and you look right up there, and with a two-story house there, and it just shows on Mr. Cornell's renderings right now that it just stands out like a bump on a hill, and that bump on the hill can be softened with some landscaping. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Richards, do you have any comments, please?
Yeah, I'll previous comments. I think it's a supportable design. It's definitely has the beach feeling, which is appropriate to that area. The choice of materials and finishes with the cedar, I can see how that's going to help it blend into all the planting that's behind this. I agree with some, strategic, well-placed landscape, kind of maybe at the corners of this thing where it's not blocking windows, and your nice deck that it could help to kind of, nestle this thing in amongst the landscape. So would hope that would be a proposal in the future, but I give positive comments, and I could see that home being up there and looking pretty nice on that hill. So that's my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Sweeney, comments, please. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yes, I'm going to be contrary to most of my colleagues because I think you're getting swayed by the architecture and not by what we're supposed to be doing. We have four areas that we have to make findings on. One is neighborhood compatibility, size, bulk, and scale of the building, architectural style, which all of you have weighed in on, and public viewpoints. And those are the findings we have to make. And I have a real problem right now. The architecture being proposed by Mr. Cornell is perfectly fine. You'll look at Robert Stern. These are, I know Mr. Cornell probably has 3 or 4 of his books in his library. Those are beautiful East Coast projects. But are they appropriate for the neighborhood? And I know one will make an argument, well, you can't really see this from the street. And that's true, because all the homes are, at least now, are hidden by large shrubs, gates, and fences and walls. including the White House at the end, as I talked about a little bit earlier. And, you know, we reviewed the house at the end. We're reviewing a house 2 doors, I think it's 2 or 3 doors down a little later today. We reviewed a house halfway in between there recently. All of those homes are single story, very contemporary, flat roofs, I believe. The one we'll look at this afternoon has a flat roof. The one we previously looked at a few weeks ago or a few months ago is a flat roof, very contemporary. You know, all of these homes up there started in life as ranch-style homes. Those are the ranch-style homes one sees as they come down Yankee Farm Road. Yes, we're going to see a house this afternoon at the intersection of Yankee Farm Road and I forgot what the other cross street is. We're going to see that this afternoon. They're here for final. We've already given it positive comments. It's a white clapboard side home with shingle roof. But my question I have in my own mind is, yes, this is very nice architecture for what it is, but it's appropriate to the neighborhood is not the street. Is what we all see from Arroyo Burro Beach, what we all see from Cliff Drive, what we all see from Ewing's Park, what we all see from the park across the Douglas Family Preserve. And that's what the Planning Commission saw in 1997. That's obviously the comments made by the Coastal Commission at that time. They had a different process because the projects had to go to Coastal Commission. I don't know if they do anymore because they leave that decision up to the city of Santa Barbara under the Planning Commission process. So I'd have a real struggle sending this on to the Planning Commission endorsing, for all intents and purposes, a 2-story house. Now, I know Mr. Cornell has made the argument that this is being hidden in the roof frame, the roof structure of an East Coast piece of architecture. And technically that's true, but technically you're still proposing a 2-story house in an area the Planning Commission already said 23 years ago there shouldn't be a 2-story house. Now, times have changed. That was 23 years ago. My question to the Planning Commission, as you're thinking, changed about public views on a promontory, well-seen corner of Bramer Ranch, the Bramer Ranch area. So I'm struggling. You know, if it were just the architectural style, I'd say I'd agree with all you. Yeah, perfectly fine. Proceed, put a few trees around it, hide a few windows, make the scale of the roof come down a little bit. But that's not the issue in my mind. The issue here is the 4 issues we have to make. Neighborhood compatibility. Is it really compatible with the adjacent homes we all can see from the beach and from the other public areas, all of which are contemporary or low-sloped ranch-style homes that were part of the original Bramer Ranch development? Is the size, bulk, and scale appropriate at 97% FAR? I don't think so. I'm not going to support anything that's over 85% on this site. I know the client and the applicant are going to make the argument that it's a large lot, but quite frankly, this is like the rest of the bluff lots along the coast. People take advantage that most of the bluff can't be built on, or most of the hillside can't be built on, and yet they're shoving huge homes right up to the front edge of properties. I have a real problem with that. And certainly, I think this house would have a huge impact on public views, and I really want to hear the thinking of the Planning Commission folks at this point rather than us, where we might want to confine our comments strictly to the style of architecture, which, as I say, probably, you know, in most cases is perfectly fine, but I'm not sure it is compatible. If we have to make compatible findings, that it's compatible with the area and the types of homes that have been built and are being proposed to be built as we are reviewing them, including one this afternoon, on this very same street. So I've got some real concerns and a real dilemma at this point whether I can support what is being presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Board Member Ziegler, do you have any comments, please?
And notwithstanding what Fred has just said, I sort of feel that it's 20 years and we've got to have a move toward change. And this is a change in a positive direction. I think it's a very attractive home. I don't think it takes away from anything to put up an attractive home. And therefore, as I said when I should have asked a question and I made a statement and I'm repeating it, I think this is a great way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. So I've been thinking about this too, and I have to say, I love the style of this home. I think it's really going to be a spectacular. It could be a really, if the detailing is done correctly, for the properly period. And I hope Mr. Cannell really does his homework in terms of a classic style home of this type is done. It could be a spectacular home. I'd go as far as saying if Mr. Hurst was going to come and build a little summer home in Santa Barbara, it'd probably be something like this, because he loved this style as well. But that's my opinion. I understand Fred's or Mr. Sweeney's concerns. My feeling is too. I'm extremely uncomfortable with very contemporary architecture. One of the things I have, my feeling about residential homes is it's like comfort food. They should feel like a home and not like something that's like a converted gas station. And that's how I'm left with a lot of modern flat roofed homes. And I'm just saying that's my opinion. But I think that Brian's approach in this particular case on this slope, I think this house will stand out, but I like it. I think for this style of home to stand out, it's good because it kind of has a happy feeling to it. And I know that's subjective and irrational, but this style of home evokes a period of time with great optimism in society and whatever. And, you can go on to philosophical meanings, but I guess my point is it is an emotional comment that I'm making that I could support this. I do notice that the plate heights are high and that the FAR is high. So there could be a possibility of encouraging to reduce the FARs on this house. But those are my only feelings on this matter, though I respect and honor what Fred has brought up in terms of concerns about the second story addition. But if, in my opinion, and it's an opinion, if they were going to put a style of home up here, I'd much rather see something like this as opposed to something with a flat roof and all glass and something that's not really in flavor of Santa Barbara. And this not necessarily is either, but it is I think a fun style that would look really cool up there. And I think it actually kind of plays, I take that back. I don't think it complements the restaurant down there, but I think it's kind of fun. I think would be a really cool beacon point home in that area. So that's my comments on it. So
Mr. Chair, can I respond to any of this at all?
Yes, Mr. Cannell, please.
I appreciate all your comments, and I do want to emphasize I absolutely believe that the style of the home is critical to the decision of whether 2 stories is allowed or not. I don't think you can just say blanket 2 stories is okay, but I do want to assure Mr. Sweeney that, the house right next door is very much compatible in terms of this style. It has steeper roofs as well. And there is a lot of, as you're pointed out, a lot of remodeling going on here. But really we're in a situation here where ultimately it will be the Planning Commission that makes the decision. I think they're going to look very closely to your board as far as direction. So maybe in your final deliberations, just deciding what our next step is, whether you want us to come back with anything like some landscaping, which is one thing I heard you'd like to see, or anything else in particular. But our goal is for this to be beautiful up there and not stand out. So And I do want to mention also, finally, as far as the Coastal Commission is concerned, the reason they got involved is because the lot split was appealed to the Coastal Commission. So they would not have been involved had it not been appealed. And I am aware that there were some particular neighbors who were really against the lot split in the first place. And the condition for the one-story did come out of that, although the original owners, the Schatz, didn't object to that because their intent was only to build a one-story house anyway. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So with that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion. Like I said, no appealable action can be taken. These are only comments to be forwarded to the Planning Commission. Who would like to make a motion, please?
I'd like
Okay.
to.
Okay, Board Member Farrell, please.
So I would like to give this design positive comments. I know that the design is a little different from the rest of the neighborhood, but I feel that the beach style makes this compatible. We would like to see, hopefully, the FAR lowered, but I am enthusiastic about the way the second story has been handled within the structure of the roof. I think that some landscaping could help in the impact to the public view. And I appreciate the wraparound porch on the first level as opposed to a deck on the second floor, which we see quite a bit. I also appreciate the cedar wood. I think that will be very pleasing and will blend in nicely. So those are the comments that I would like to take on to Planning Commission.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Miller and board members, I would appreciate the opportunity to have the motion reread for the record so that we can make sure that each of the 4 topics that were requested in the memo were met. Ms. Rydell, are you able to read that back to us, please?
Yes, Ted. And then while I'm at it, can I clarify that the motion is to continue indefinitely to Planning Commission with positive comment?
Yes.
Thank you. And then also, can I clarify who the seconder was? I'm still not familiar with the board members, so I don't recognize you quite as easily as Mary would.
Board Member
me?
James seconded.
James, thank you. So the comments that I captured are that the beach style is compatible, that the board would like the FAR to be lowered. The board is enthusiastic about the way the second story has been handled within the structure of the roof. Landscaping may help with impact to the public view. The board appreciates the wraparound porch rather than a second floor deck. And the board appreciates the cedar.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rydell. And Mr. Chair and board members, I do think that motion adequately captures what we were looking for in terms of neighborhood compatibility, size, bulk, scale, architecture, and public viewpoints. So if you agree, then feel free to continue on with the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. So I feel that that's adequate. Is there any other comment? All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call. We'll start with Board Member Sweeney.
No.
Board Member Ziegler.
Yes.
Vice Chair James.
Yes.
Board Member Farrell.
Yes.
Board Member Motisha.
Yes.
Board Member Richards.
Yes.
Chair Miller.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes with 6 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you. Due to the fact that it's 4:25, I am going to remove myself from the board, so Chair James, could you please step in and continue the
Yes.
meeting? And thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your input.
Okay, thank you, Chair Miller. Continuing, our second item is 1726 Calle Boca del Cañon. And the project is seeking design and final approval. Proposal for an interior remodel and a new 450 square foot, 2-car garage to an existing 1,061 square foot, 1-story single unit residence. Project includes new rear deck and patio, removal of as-built patio cover, a new standing seam metal roof, new windows and doors. The project will address violations enforcement code 2019-00310. The proposed total of 1,682 square feet of development on a 6,730 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 59% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. So do we have our applicant here, or do we ask for public comment at this point? I'm not sure, Mr. Bolton. Hamilton.
Vice Chair James and board members, at this point, we can hear the applicant presentation. I do have several staff comments to make just before the applicant gives this presentation though. And I just wanted to mention that this project is returning for project design approval after having received a modification. And in general, it received positive comments at the previous SFDB hearing. And if you do have any questions regarding the process that this project did go through, then just let staff know. Thank you.
Okay, then, if the applicant, actually, shall I read the comments? Mr. Hamilton?
Vice Chair James, board members, it's not necessary to read each individual comment. What I would suggest is for the applicant to, in their presentation, just respond, just provide responses for each comment and show how they address them. And Mr. Contreras, was there anybody else on your project team that I should add to the presentation list?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, thank you. All right, you can go ahead.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. The last time I presented this was in June. So it's been, quite some time since then. Not much has changed. We've added more details, roof details, stone details. We also went to the staff hearing officer, which is that letter reproduced on the cover sheet here on the left. And we got approval for the front yard encroachment. The project, if anyone is not familiar with the project, it's a 2-car garage in the front yard. We're doing some interior remodel and addressing some violations that are on site. If you'd like to go to the next page. This gives you some context of the site, just showing how the style is pretty eclectic in this neighborhood. There isn't one, firm style. And you can also get a sense of the existing conditions here on the right side. This is the existing driveway from the street. And if you can continue down to the next page. I'm sorry, this is our erosion control plan. Go one more page, please. Stormwater plan. Sorry, page 5 is our site plan. So here you can see where our new 2-car garage is going in. We're doing a koi pond right near the entry, going through a covered entry area see if you can go down to the renderings page down on, sorry, to get a better idea of the proposal, if you can go down to page 13 of the set. So in the middle rendering there, that's your front door approach. I think that's what explains most of the project here for the entry anyway. And we've also developed a landscape plan to show, the plants that are going in around this entryway. If you go to the rendering on the top left, it shows the garage, which is gonna be a 5-pointed stone veneer, dry stack sandstone. If you go to the next page, page 14, here's an image of the sandstone veneer. The actual stone won't be as varied on the texture. It'll be more flat. The perforated pattern on the top left here is for the front gate, which will be similar to this image here. On the left, off-the-shelf LED light fixtures will be clad with custom metal screens with the pattern similar to the image on the right. And the gas fireplace chimney cap will be stucco, and you can see a detail of that down below. And if you can go to the 2 pages up, you'll see more of the roof coping details for the standing metal seam roof. And 1 page up, you'll see, our guardrail details that are more contemporary in style, just to respond to that same style. And then on our last page, we have our landscape plan, which has an ala tree there by the entry. There's Cousin It, River Wattle. Is that green circle with smooth agave. In the more spiky one, there's going to be Breeze Basket Brush. It's going to be the one coming around the entryway. And in the rear of the yard, the rear yard will be the San Diego Bank grass, which is what you see, that BR1 area that's labeled. And that would be it. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Meisel. Do we have any public comment, Mr. Hamilton? Or, I'm sorry, Miss New Person. Sorry, got your name.
It's Ms. Burkhart.
Ms. Burkhart, yes, thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair James. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please follow the directions on screen and raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates to me that you wish to speak. Heidi, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara, and to the board. No, we did not receive any written correspondence on this item, so back to you.
Thank you. Vice Chair James, there are no hands raised, so I'll hand it back to you for questions.
Okay, I will go down the list in my mind. Let's see, Mr. Motisha, question?
No, I don't have any questions. I think I've seen it before and he's made the presentation. And if he has covered all the questions that we had in comment, yes, I don't have any more questions.
All right, Ms. Farrell, question?
No questions.
Mr. Sweeney?
No questions.
Mr. Richards? Can't hear you.
I have no questions. I remember it from before and I think it's good.
Okay, Mr. Ziegler?
Yeah, on the garage door. And I'm wondering if you could put a picture up again? Okay. I'm a big believer in asymmetry. And I'm wondering whether the double rows of windows there, if that's what they are, might look better if you just had one vertical row of windows and have it dark on the other side. So that's my question.
Okay, do you want to answer that?
Sure, yeah. We actually showed that same idea that you're suggesting on our color board. I'm not sure if Ted got the last color board we sent him on the second page. Yeah, which is basically what is that similar to the idea that you're suggesting? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was our design that we'd go with.
Okay, well, we'll leave that design decision to you and the client. And let's move on to my own question. I would just like a quick peek at the plant list. If you could go back to the landscape plan, please. I remember this from last time. Was there a lot more landscaping and less hardscape in that entry in the prior go-around?
I don't think we had as much detail on the plant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. That looks good. And why don't we go on to comments then? How about, we'll start with Mr. Motisha.
I'm sorry, pardon the interruption, Vice Chair James. I just want to make sure that everyone was called on to ask questions, all the board members.
Did I miss anyone?
Okay, I guess not.
Board Member Motisha, did you get a chance to ask questions?
I did. I did not have any questions.
Okay, thank you. I think we're a little we're used to a certain order here, and now that we're a little bit out of that order, it's a little different. So thank you.
Can you give me the order?
I think it keeps us on our toes.
Okay, well, it's my last meeting. I'm going to do it my way.
Good.
Okay, on to comments then. Mr. Motisha, do you have any comments?
Yes, I like it. A lot of those houses up in the Valerio, West Valerio section of town are, I mean, very remodeled and looking very nice. There's lots. There's some really old houses up there, new houses, and they're all very. This looks very nice to me, and I think it goes along with our criteria. It fits the area of the houses around it, and it's not too big. It's not too, definitely not a size and scale problem, and very nice, modern, a touch of modern with addition to a single family, more of a ranch style, small stucco house. Looks very nice.
Thank you.
Is that your comment?
Yes, that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Farrell, would you care to comment?
Well, I just, I'm very supportive of the project as well. I find the home very aesthetically pleasing. I love the stone and the wood and even the horizontal. I think it just looks very nice, and I think it'll be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
Okay, Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll be able to make a motion for approval when you're ready.
Okay, Mr. Richards? Comment? Comment?
Yeah, I remember the project from before, and I think it's a good project. The landscape plan looks nice, and it's into the neighborhood, so I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler?
Yeah, I'm in support of it. I wanted to change the garage door, but that's about the only comment I would have. Otherwise, it really looks good.
Okay, and I will add to the supportive comments. I feel it poses no size, bulk, and scale issues, and it's compatible with the neighborhood. I do have a comment that if that is a little yucca tree in that little planter, get that out of there, because that's going to be problematic for everybody down the line. But other than that, it's great, and I would look for a motion from Mr. Sweeney.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion for project design approval and final approval as submitted. The topography of the site is not changing dramatically that would impact the site, that the building scale is appropriate, that the materials that are being presented are appropriate, and that the style is compatible with the eclectic definition of the neighborhood, which goes down to Valerio Street. That current consistency are that in the motion we should indicate that the style of garage door is presented can be determined by the designer and the applicant.
There
Yes.
was I'm sorry, Board Member Sweeney, you broke up for us a bit there. If you could go back 10 seconds, please.
Back to 10 seconds, okay. Consistency of appearance is appropriate, and that the applicant and designer can work out the final development of the garage door as presented, either as a set of single lights or a set of lights that are centered to the garage door. And with that, and I believe no major trees have been affected by this project. Good neighbor guidelines have been practiced, that it protects the general health, safety, and welfare as reviewed under the purview of this board, and that public views are not prohibited. That's my motion.
I second that.
Okay, Mary, can we have a roll call, please?
Thank you. This is Heidi Rydell. Begin the roll call vote.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Well, I'll start with Board Member Ziegler,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Vice Chair James.
Yes,
That is unanimous. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, this project has a 10-day appeal process, and that is posted on the screen in front of you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, our third project is 3150 Seacliff Drive, seeking project design approval. The proposal is to demolish an existing unit residence and construct a new 4,000 square foot single unit residence with a new detached garage, new pool cabana, hardscape and landscape improvements, and a new 6-foot tall site wall with remotely actuated vehicular gates and 2 pedestrian gates. An ADU, accessory dwelling unit, is proposed under a separate permit. The project site is located on a 102, 357 square foot lot with a slope of 27% in the Hillside Design District. And the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The proposed 5,153 square feet of development is 90% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Project design approval is requested. Also requires NPO hillside and slope lot findings. Thank you.
And Vice Chair James, board members and applicants, staff just has brief comments to guide the review today. This project is returning for project design approval today after having received some positive comments at the last review. And in terms of process, I just wanted to note that this project does not require a coastal development permit as submitted. Staff has reviewed it for application completeness and environmental review, and it has been determined that most likely it will qualify for a coastal exclusion application. Therefore, no case planner is required and no DART process is required. And if you have any questions regarding the process, please let me know. Thank you.
Great. Have we received any public comment?
And at this time, I'll just turn it over to the applicants and they can make their presentation and we'll do public comment after that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
And Jeff, we can't hear you. Let's see.
How about now?
Mr. April, yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
There we go. Good afternoon, board, vice chair. I just want to say thank you again for your continued participation for all of these digital hearings in 2020. Look forward to seeing you guys in person at some point, hopefully, middle of next year. We're in front of you today for requesting project design approval for 3150 Seacliff. And we would like to request to attend final on consent. Regarding the existing design, the design remains consistent with what we had shown at the concept hearing. If you scroll to the site plan in the presentation. Perfect. The location of the home is in the same spot as the concept presentation on approximately the same building pad as the existing residence. It's 38 feet from the east property line with the zone that's in a 15-foot setback zone. The garage is still tucked to the northeast corner, closest to the street. We've retained the kinked driveway to obscure views of the residence driveway vehicular access from the main road. If you all remember that corner of Seacliff, there's a 90-degree turn in the road, and then right at the driveway, there's another 90-degree turn. So currently, there's a pretty straight shot view right down the existing driveway to the existing residence. We've kept the pool on the western portion of the property to A, keep it off the bluff top, C, keep it out of the architectural character of the main residence, and activate that meadow over there. We have Kier, part of our landscape architecture team, to speak to the meadow that's over in that environment. The only alteration that we have done is a material change on the garage. At concept, we were exploring a vertically oriented clear heart 2x6 or 1x6 cedar siding. We are now proposing to do a vertically oriented board formed concrete to match the main level of the proposed residence. Providing comments to the feedback from the last meeting, the design of the project blends in with the neighborhood, especially with the green roof. Our response would be, thank you. The green roof is still part of this project. It's instrumental to the design. We've generated a plant list for what's available on that green roof, and we fully intend to pursue a building permit with this. We are not currently in the high fire zone, so I see no reason that this would not be granted a building permit with a green roof at this time. Showing potential trees to be planted. Page 27 of this PDF is a planting plan that illustrates both a legend right there at the top showing 11 trees to be removed, 3 of which are oaks, and 40 trees to be planted, 9 of which are coastal live oaks. And Kier is on the phone, or sorry, on the call, and he can speak to these. You're muted, Kier.
And Mr. Smith, I've just sent you an unmute request. You should be able to speak now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair and board members. Yes, so actually the tree removal legend is just to the left of the top tree legend. And we are removing 3 coast live oaks, and that was in regards to the realignment of the driveway. In addition, we're also removing a few cedars. And if we go to the, I guess we can kind of get into the landscape too, but the site, it has a lot of beautiful trees that we intend to preserve. We're introducing, like Jeff said, a number of different species of trees in kind of keeping with this really treed environment. And then the little green circles kind of below the top of the slope would be on the Cliff Drive side. There's 9 of them. Those would be where the mitigation oaks would be located.
Yeah, we think it's important to point out that the bluff top, which is visible from both from Cliff Drive, that would be the location where we would be proposing to do the live oak plantings as part of the mitigation measures. We feel that the bluff top with oaks is going to be a beautiful landscape for everyone to see. The third comment was show the building height of the project in comparison to neighbors. So page 8 of this presentation, our architectural site plan, begins to show on the adjacent properties in plan view the heights of those buildings. The neighbor immediately to the east, single and a half story residence with a maximum building height of approximately 16 feet. The building that is to the west of this parcel is completely obscured by landscape between the two. And that is a building height of approximately 16 feet. That looks like it's all single story with a gabled roof. Unknown if there's any kind of a basement or walkout there at all. And then the neighbor directly to the north has a max building height of approximately 21 feet. Page 15 of this presentation are our architectural elevations. And you will see on those elevations that we have our max building height at 25 feet and 1 inch, which is below the 30-foot height limit here. Yep, there you go. Provide a detailed color board for the concrete panels and exterior wood screening. So page 21 of this presentation begins to show you the selections for exterior materials of the project. The first image on your upper left corner is vertically oriented Clearheart naturally weathering cedar. This is a cedar that would be used on the second story of the residence. We like it because it's beautiful, it's naturally weathering, it has that coastal vibe, it has the warmth of wood, and it actually structurally makes sense. We're not gonna put board form concrete on the second floor of a residence. The main level and the garage, one image to the right, is a vertically oriented board formed concrete. So again, it's the same texture as the wood done in concrete in the same orientation and the same board widths. So while the material will be different, the overall look would be very similar to each other. The concrete having a little bit more of a rooted in place feeling, and then the wood up top having a little bit greater variation in the weathering of that wood. The woods, if you zoom out just one click or go one more to the right. Yeah, and then the third image in from the left, that is a gravel ballast. We are proposing green roofs. However, there are planting limitations between any kind of a chimney opening. There's access required for around solar panels and any kind of plumbing vents. You cannot have the vegetated roof go up to the, right to meet the vent. So we're proposing a gray granite ballast roof where visible for both pedestrian, maintenance access, to screen under the PV panels, to offer clearance around chimneys and around any kind of the trace system that we need to have access to. The next image to the right is concrete steps. These concrete steps would be the main living room towards the bluff, south end of the property, going to the lawn. You can go down to the next slide and I'll walk you through those materials. The first material is showing the weathered C-channel fascia. The second floor of this project has a weathered metal fascia. It's a structural element in the project that we're proposing to not cover up with the material. And we'd like to get it to weather to a specific patina, very similar to what's seen on the screen, and then put a clear coat on that matte clear coat so that we could preserve the coloration of that patina. One image to the right is boulder walls. We'll speak to the landscape materials that we have also compiled for you, but as part of the site work, as opposed to the architectural work, we're proposing a very local vernacular of basically Santa Barbara sandstone in both boulder, cobble, and decomposed granite forms. One image to the right. This is green roof. Keir will speak to the green roof plantings. And then one more image to the right is, again, a bronze. We are going for a steel door and window system that, if you guys have spec'd steel door and window systems before, they have a lot of warmth and modeling to them. So we're leaning towards that. And any exterior architectural metal would be in this dark, warm bronze tone. Zooming out, I can probably cruise through the rest. I'm conscious of time. The deck on the second floor is a naturally weathering Ipe, and the wood screens are a 2x2 ash that's been, it's a company called Thermery that's naturally weathering, and it naturally weathers to silver. So it's a 2x2 with, I think it's 2 inches on center spacing. So it's basically equals 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches of a screening system. The railing on the second floor is not glass. It's a vertical rod bronze finish to match the door and windows. And the exterior soffits of the home are a white oak wood that is continuous from the interior to the exterior. Page 26 has landscape materials that Keir can speak to.
Sure. If we could actually start on the first sheet. Let's see, L1.0. I can kind of walk you through this, but yeah, so here's our overall landscape plan. If I could actually go to L0.0 would be perfect, the aerial. So this is just kind of showing a lot of the existing vegetation. As Jeff mentioned, we have a lot of screening on the west side of the property. And then also on the east side, I don't know the address there, but we have about a 12-foot hedge on that side as well that we would be keeping. And then, like I said before, there's a number of trees that we would be, that are to remain, the majority of the trees. If we go to the next sheet, please. Here's our overall kind of landscape plan. And we're proposing a new entry gate. Jeff mentioned the meadow. This green blob that you kind of see in the middle of the property is already a pretty expansive open area with minimal trees. And the clients expressed wanting to keep that really natural setting. So a lot of the plants are very naturalized, California coastal, kind of native-y Mediterranean plant palette. And if we can go, there is a lawn just to the south of the house, but that would be the only high water using plants on site. And if we can go to the next sheet, please. So we are removing a few cedars, as I mentioned, and this is the kind of a render view of the entry gate. We're proposing to actually mill the cedars that we remove for these kind of lattice fence screening element that happens on the north property line along the Seacliff frontage. And then with the rock walls that kind of are adjacent to the gate, we're proposing a native Santa Barbara sandstone veneer. And then the entry apron is a mortared cobble. So we're really going towards that rusticated kind of coastal vibe. And then the gate would match the architecture with using actually a custom milled cedars from on site. We'll use a vertical tongue and groove system for that. Next sheet, please.
I'd like to make just a note that this sheet is in response to item number 6. The 6-foot high fence at the front line is acceptable. If we wanted to provide you with some more detail, despite it being acceptable.
Thanks, Jeff. And then back to the materials, we're kind of riffing off of some of the architecture, but really breaking down into the landscape and being a little bit more loose with things to kind of naturalize the architecture. So Santa Barbara sandstone, loose cobble. For the pathways, we're proposing either a decomposed granite or a gold gravel. And then wood decking to match the architecture, Ipe decking. And then there's some imagery kind of where that fence character imagery came from. And I think next sheet, please. So I know we're running out of time. Jeff, did you want to add to anything here? Should I keep
No, I
going?
just wanted to just touch on the landscape plan, including the green roof, the plantings.
Sure. Yeah, so this is our landscape plan. These hatches represent a different plant palette mixes. So I mentioned the trees. We're proposing a number of trees. And then perimeter planting, we're proposing toyons and rhuses and kind of native plant palette there to provide some strategic screening. For the meadow, we're doing all low water native grasses, some non-native ones as well.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
you are out of time. However, you can ask the vice chair for additional time. It is at her discretion to grant that to you.
Madam Vice Chair, could I request some additional time, please?
Yeah, how about 3 to 5 minutes? How's that?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Sure.
And so the hatches kind of, let's see, just outside of the meadow and kind of around the house, we would be going with a little bit more kind of detailed plantings with kind of our standard fair Mediterranean plant palette. And then Jeff mentioned the green roofs, which are on part of the house and also the garage. I know Jeff showed some photos of some grass kind of green roofs, but sedums and if you go to the plant palette, just to the right, sorry, the green roof, we're proposing a mix of succulents on those green roofs. And that, I think, concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now it's time to ask for public comment.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair James. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please follow the directions on screen by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which indicates to me that you wish to speak. Heidi, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara, and to the board. No, we did not receive any written correspondence on this item. So back to you.
Thanks, Heidi. Vice Chair James, there are no hands raised, so I will hand it back to you for questions.
Very good. Thank you. We will now take questions. Mr. Motisha, questions?
Yes, the green roofs. The green roofs are only on the first story units. The second story does not have a green green roofs. Is that correct?
That is correct. The second story, if you go to the architectural roof or site plan, page 8 of the presentation, you are correct. The area that is above the second floor is reserved for photovoltaics. and the area that is the roof of the main residence and the garage
I can pick up where
are for the green roof.
Mr. April, we lost you for a second there. If you want to go back a few seconds and say that again, please.
Oh, my apologies. I will repeat myself. You are correct in that the first story roofs are green. The second story roof is the gravel ballast with a PV array on it.
Could we go back to the previous site plan, I guess it is, showing the roof
27.
with the green on it. Color, that's it. So looking at, you look like you have two levels of green roof there. Are those two levels are two different heights, or there is height with just a break in between them?
These are two different heights. Their difference in height is about 16 to 18 inches. The roof that is here is over the main living space and master, and then the roof that is here is a structural depth below and is the roof over the kids' bedrooms and guest bedroom.
Again, and then the two-story to the left
Correct.
Is not green roofs. Okay, green roof. Okay, very good. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Ms. Farrell, question?
Hi, could you show us, just to refresh my memory, what the pool cabana, the design of that, what that looks like, please?
The pool cabana is not part of the scope anymore, and we need an updated project description. We're not putting a structure out at this pool at this time right here. It's just a pool in a meadow. So an amendment to the project description needs to be made for this submittal.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, and I know that we don't look at the design or anything about the ADU, but I am just curious about where you're planning to place this on the lot.
The owners have reserved the area up here behind the pool up against the property line as a potential location for their ADU.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions.
Mr. Sweeney, question?
Just one. You have on the same drawing, I understand the second floor of main house potentially will be a location for solar panels. The gray area shown on the garage, is that also a potential place for solar panels?
That is correct. The owners are extremely interested in supplying all energy for the property via solar.
And then my last question is, it's my understanding that the fire department is going through the process of proposing new coastal high fire zones. The last time I looked at that proposal, this indeed appears to be outside of that, as you indicated in your presentation. Have you been able to verify that?
They have not been forthcoming with their implementation of a new map. I have seen the new map, and this, in fact, is in the vicinity that would be deemed coastal high fire on that new map, but it has not, to our knowledge, been relayed to us that it's been enacted. And I'd like to also, for the record, even though this might not be the place and time, is to disagree with the opinion that this is a coastal high fire area. But maybe Ted has some opinion or knowledge on when that will be changed.
Thank you.
Ms. Vice Chair and board members and Mr. April, to respond to that. This project is not considered to be in a high fire area, so you can just disregard that as a consideration for your findings today. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, Mr. Sweeney?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Richards?
Yeah, I have two questions on the landscape plan. How is meadow established, is this gonna be planted with like individual plants, or you guys grow it from seed?
Yeah, that's a good question. We would likely contract grow these. We've worked with, I don't know, Greenlee Associates in the past, but we would probably contract grow these, and they would be irrigated through MP rotators, and I think they would probably be plug planting or 4-inch sizes.
Okay. Thank you. And then one other question, if you go down on that plan a little bit to the call out number 10, you guys have a view deck. I'm just wondering, is that thing kind of set on grade, or I guess it's on the different here, but
Yeah, that's on grade and it's existing.
oh, it's existing.
Yeah.
Those were my questions. Yeah,
Thank
right there
you.
at number 10.
I'm sorry. Mr. Ziegler?
I don't have any questions, but I want to comment that when the time comes to comment and to vote on this house, I'm going to vote for approval. But I'm taking off now to view Jupiter and Saturn for about a half hour, so I won't be around for that vote. Thank you. I hope you understand.
I do. Thank you.
Hey, once in a lifetime. My question would be, what square footage of lawn do you have there?
Yes, if you go to the planting legend, I believe it's 2000, or sorry, the sheet L1 or 2.0, please. Yes, it's the lawn is. Could you zoom in? I'm sorry, with the sod lawn legend. Thank you. It's 2,100 square feet, 21 and change.
Thank you. And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that was it.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. Richards asked the question about irrigation on the meadow. So you will not be using any grasses on the green roofs, is that correct? Only the sedums? I wasn't quite clear on that.
Yes, as of now, we're proposing to use a mixture of sedums.
Okay. Then let us go on to comments, and we'll start with John Motisha. Mr. Motisha, would you like to make a comment?
Unmute myself and
Okay.
put myself on the screen. Now, I think the project, you have answered all of our previous questions. I think the project adheres to our guidelines, and the lot is rather big, and I like the landscaping. I love trees. I could support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Farrell? Mrs. Farrell. Yeah.
So only one comment that I just, I think you need to, I like the green roof idea, but just beware. We've spoken with the person from the fire department a few times about green roofs, and what my understanding is that, fire department wants us to have defensible space between our structures from any planting materials. And when you have a green roof, there's no defensible space because that's all things that can burn. Yes, I know that succulents are a very good choice, but what they worry about is weeds growing and things receding, and if the house gets sold, someone else takes over and they don't take care of it and it's not watered, and then highly combustible. So just, I would be very careful about making sure that this gets approval and a green stamp from the fire department before moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney. need to unmute Fred.
Sorry. I have one question for staff just to follow up on Ms. Farrell's question. If we gave this project design approval today with the green roof and final approval to go to consent, and they get to the fire department and they, for whatever reason, find out they can't have that, do we need to put in our motion today if we approve this that we prefer the green roof, assuming that may be the majority feeling from the board, but we would also accept the gravel and make that part of the motion so they don't have, or do they have to come back and ask for approval of a different roof finish?
Board Member Sweeney, staff does not anticipate that that the green roof will not be approved at building permit. In the motion, you may simply address the green roof. That's what I would suggest, because that's what they're proposing here.
Okay. All right.
That's what I recommend.
Thank you. My comment is, I think this project is doing what we asked them to do. I know that I supported the 90% FAR, given the site and where the potential ADU may go. So I think this is unlike other sites and like the site earlier in the agenda. This has a lot of flat area that's part of that total square footage of the site. So I think in this case, that doesn't differ from where we were at our last vote. I think that I don't know, a lot of people don't pay attention to what this board does, but if they ever do, they might come into question about whether or not we really understand the word compatibility or the definition of compatibility. Because this project, in my view, even though there is a two-story component to it, would have been a project could be a project that's much more appropriate to the first item we saw tonight. Because we're looking at neighborhood compatibility. And in the future, I think the actions that we've taken tonight, if we approve this project and that we supported the first one on the original agenda, is going to call into question the public's understanding of what the definition of compatibility is. And the outcome of that is what we're seeing in other venues from the state of California for housing, where they're saying, no, you can't do subjective decision-making and definitions of words like compatibility. You have to be objective. And I think that our actions today really in my mind, call into question our ability to understand the word compatibility. But having said that, this project does what we asked it to do, and I will be able to vote to give it project design approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richards? Comment?
Yes, I am in support of this project as well. I think the landscape plan is quite nice, and see this really fitting into that site. Nice way in the way that you propose the planting here. Ask a question about the meadow, because I know sometimes there's like this romance about the meadow on your property, but sometimes it can seem like such a pain to establish and maintain. So seems you got professionals here that know how to make that happen. So I'm confident about it. And I think that the entry gate really fits into this area well too. The fencing is nice, and I appreciate the materials that weather in a way that kind of blend them into the landscape. So I'd like to make positive comments, and I support the project.
Thank you.
Right. Well, Mr. Ziegler already weighed in on his support, and I will weigh in on mine. Yes, I'll echo everything that Mr. Richards said and my other colleagues. And I'd really like to appreciate that the client is milling the cedars and reusing them on site, and just the whole green approach, and how you're really utilizing the space with a lot of landscaping and trees, and I feel it's very compatible with the neighborhood as well. And glad to hear that we are not subject to the coastal high fire restriction here, as far as we know. So with that, would someone care to make a motion, please? Someone's child is making a motion.
We have a child making one. I'll go ahead and make a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
That we give this, where are we? Project design approval, and that final approval can be reviewed and given at consent as requested by the applicant. That the natural topography has been protected. There is not a large amount of grading that will affect the topography of the site. That the building scale is appropriate at 2 stories with flat roofs and does not cause a visual appearance to the street. That the project is consistent in appearance with the general neighborhood that was developed as low single-story ranch-style pitch roof homes. That on the street level it's compatible. On the view level from Royal Beach and Cliff Drive, that the scale that's being presented and the bulk and the treatment of including the green roofs will allow this project to disappear, and is compatible therefore to the neighborhood. That the quality materials are acceptable, and that there are trees being removed, but they're being replaced appropriately. And in general, the project meets the general purview of the review board's requirements for health, safety, and welfare. That good neighbor guidelines have been met, and no major public use are being inhibited. That's my motion.
Okay, I'll second.
Thank you. Would the maker of the motion want to add anything about if green roof isn't feasible, that we'd be fine with gravel? Did we want to say something about that?
I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
The print gravel that's presented, that was on, I forgot what sheet it was, is an appropriate substitute if necessary. Make that part of the motion.
Thank you. Could we have a vote then?
Oh, Madam Chair, you should just get your seconder to approve that.
Oh,
I approve that. Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. And can we have a roll call, please?
Thank you. This is Heidi Rydell. Begin the roll call vote. We will begin with Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler, absent, and Vice Chair James.
Yes.
That is unanimous with 5 yeses and 1 absence, or 2 absences with the Chair Miller absent as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This project has a 10-day appeal process, and that is up on the screen right now for anyone who's interested.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Board Vice Chair. I really appreciate your comments this evening.
Thank you for your great presentation.
And Madam Vice Chair and board members, just to chime in before we go to the next comment, if everybody could turn off their mics if you're not speaking, that would help reduce our background noise that we're getting right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last project is 414 Yankee Farm Road.
Could we take a 5-minute break?
Yes. Would everyone agree to do that?
I don't
know what's going on with the background noise, but yes, I agree to take a 5-minute break and resume the meeting at 5:27 if staff can help us with that? Are we okay?
Vice Chair James, that's totally fine. I'm going to just let the applicants in now, and then we'll reconvene in 5 minutes.
of SFPB on December 21st, 2020. Winter solstice. Okay, our last item is 414 Yankee Farm Road, here for final approval. The proposals for an interior remodel and a 92 square foot addition to an existing 4,738 square foot single unit residence located in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. Project includes demolition of an existing 1,153 square foot garage to construct a new 848 square foot detached two-car garage with a pool equipment room and storage room. It also includes a new outdoor pool, raised wooden decks, relocation of existing driveways, and landscape improvements. The proposed total of 4,532 square feet of development on a 51,574 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 89% of the guideline maximum floor to lot area ratio. Final approvals requested, and this project requires substantial conformance to the plans that received project design approval July 20th, 2020. So if the applicant would like to, give us their presentation, that would be great.
Sure. Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, my name is Michael Holliday. We're the architects for the project with DMHA. Also presenting today will be Courtney Miller and her team, Cameron, on the landscape and hardscape and exterior issues. What I want to primarily go over.
Let me just ask of my fellow board members, if anyone isn't muted during the presentation, can you please do so to eliminate background noise? Thank you.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, we're excited to present this project to you today. It's significantly in conformance with the approved PDA that we received on this project, except for the following items that I just want to walk you through. So primarily all I'm going to do is show you of some of the things that we've changed, for some value engineering, but primarily just getting more into the materiality of the project and sort of understanding what works best. So I'm going to run through just the changes from what you approved last time. The first change is going to be on the trellis material on the south exterior. And if you zoom in on this front here, you can just see that upper image to see what it looks like. From the white painted material to the recycled barnwood finish to complement the barnwood in the rear of the project. So initially that whole trellis structure there, as seen in both, I'm going to review these very quickly. We can go into more detail if you need us to, but essentially they wanted the warmth of the natural wood on the front. And so instead of that be a painted wood element, it's a natural finished barnwood element that's going to complement and match actually the recycled barnwood structure on the back. So that's kind of change number one. Number two is that initially the project has existing vinyl windows, and the client wants to change all of the vinyl windows to a new aluminum clad exterior color to match the white windows that are there. So all that sort of changes is a subtle proportion on the window frames, but instead of being the clunky vinyl, which is sort of a heavy, window, mullion and muntin, everything's going to be single light, but it'll be white finish, aluminum clad. So to the trained eye, you'd be able to see the difference, but it's just throughout the house, we want to make that change, and that's reflected in the drawings. The third change, is a similar change with all the doors. There's existing vinyl doors on the project, and they want to change those to new aluminum clad exterior color white doors to match. So essentially it's just more of a technical change, and much more expensive, by the way, but it's something that the client wanted to make, and we agreed with them. The other couple changes here are a little bit more evident. The change of the patio front doors and fixed windows on both the south and north to a nano wall folding door. The exterior color would match existing. So it looks, for instance, on this image here, Wade, see how we've got the doors, the rendering. So which sheet do we go to? I'm asking my. we'll show you here in a minute, just essentially well, you can see the look of that right there. If you zoom in three-dimensionally, it's a folding door system as opposed to, yeah, that right there. So that whole thing opens up right now. And if you, from the original design, we had a pair of doors and a center window. We can go back and look at it if you need to, but essentially the client really wanted to open up that whole entry. So the proportions of the opening are the same, but essentially we changed that on the south elevation and also on the north elevation, which we can look at that if we need to. Let me kind of go through all of these, and then we can, if we have enough time, I want to make sure I cover all of these. So there's two instances on the one on the south and one on the north where we changed the door, a pair of doors and a center glass, fixed glass to a nano wall system. Another change that we made on the south elevation was the cost of the stone was prohibitive, essentially. And so we've changed the decking material on the south deck to a, let me see where this one is. Yeah, we changed the south deck material from stone to Kebony wood, which is similar to an ipe. So if you zoom in on that top image, you can probably see, again, we're just going to keep it at the 3D level just so you understand. You know, it's almost going to be imperceptible from the street level, but instead of that being stone, which became about 3 times the cost of the Kebony, it's just going to be an all wood deck along with a wood wraparound that comes down below. So the stairs there and the front face of that decking there was also going to be stone. So that's a subtle change. You probably wouldn't even see it from the street, but it's a material change from our PDA approval. Couple of the other minor changes were the if you veer off to the right of this image right here, yeah, the area, that's the existing house, which we're essentially kind of just cleaning up. But there was a change of the stone wall below the main house balcony to a board and bat vertical siding color to match existing. It's a Benjamin Moore bone white. So it's essentially the lower part of that 2-story house sits on an existing stone plinth in the previous drawing. And part of it is board and bat. And so we just decided to continue that white board and bat all the way around so that house sort of sits on a consistent plinth without the material changing in an odd space. So these are subtle details, but nevertheless, we want to make sure the board understood them. So that was that. We're going to change the panelized roll-up garage doors to let's go look at the garage now. I think we're on the back side. If we can, what's the best image or sheet, Wade, for that? I'm going to scroll down. Maybe just want to scroll down to, trying to get, there we go. So it's going to be sheet, probably one of the 3-dimensional images, huh?
Just as a reminder to the applicant, it might help to provide the plans with page numbers.
Sheet A202. Sorry about that. If you go look at that A202, it will show what we're trying to change here. And I want to leave enough time for Courtney to cover all the landscape and hardscape. This shows essentially what we've cleaned up the barn, made it much more consistent. What we did was we changed from the panelized roll-up garage doors to the dark, which used to be kind of a dark brown color, to now that they're going to be glass panels with a reclaimed barnwood finish and sort of that X bracing detail, which is a much more traditional. And also changed the windows on this building. So essentially it looks like an authentic recycled barnwood structure all the way around. And it'll still be a segmented roll-up garage door, but that's going to be the aesthetic, which is a little bit different from the previous. The other element we change, again, slight modification, is to the left here, which is where the trash and recycle enclosure is. The other pair of doors there, that we had to move that out of the setback, and that's all going to be basically finished with the recycled barnwood. And then lastly, the last change is the the roof of the garage was a standing seam metal roof, and they preferred a corrugated metal wrought iron roof, it'll essentially match the same color, which is called wrought iron, sort of a dark bronze color. That's not exactly it's going to be like a smooth or corrugated, undulating corrugated metal roof is what we got it called out. And then we can look at the detail if you want. This computer rendering was the only thing we could put on there that kind of show you what it looks like. So with that, I'll let Courtney talk about the landscape and hardscape issues. And I can come back and answer any questions about those changes that I reviewed quite quickly.
Thank you, Michael. Madam Chair, board members, thanks for having us tonight. Timmy, if you want to go to, I don't know what number it is in the set, but just the landscape planting plan, if you could navigate to that. There you go. Great. So I'll just very briefly walk you through the landscaping, and then Cameron is here mostly to speak to the construction details and materials. I would say as a whole, we have not changed much of anything since the last time we were here, other than just refining the design and, fully detailing out the project. The one thing that did get revised, as Michael mentioned, is the wood terrace on the south side of the home, previously with stone. But then we also have a deck off of the north side of the house that has expanded somewhat. So there is a door on the northern side of the living room that previously was windows, and now it's a big slider. So if you can see, there's a rectangular deck that kind of spans that north side of the house. And we think it's actually better now because it's a much more gracious sort of indoor-outdoor experience as you move all the way from the front terrace to the back. Otherwise, with the planting design, we worked really closely with the fire department on this, so we are compliant with what their requirements are in terms of low fuel near the home and all of our appropriate zones. And otherwise, I think I could walk you through the species selections if you're curious, but I think we're pretty short on time, so I'll just leave that for questions. And then I'll turn it over to Cameron, and Timmy, if you could switch to the construction plan, which I believe is the next, or the prior sheet, Cameron can speak to the materials and details. Oh, guess the next one. There.
Yeah, you're muted there, Cameron.
All right, unmuted it, and then it ended up muted again. Thanks. If we could zoom in on the kind of upper half of the site, just want to kind of give you a brief overview. Both Michael and Courtney have pretty much covered the minor nuances that have changed, but everything else is strictly the same. And I think what we're showing you now is just a much more further developed and refined approach towards a full set of construction documents, as Courtney mentioned. Just briefly reviewing some of these hardscape materials, as Courtney mentioned, we're showing the wood decking on the south side of the property with wood steps down to what would be flagstone paving. And those pathways that connect you from the south side of that deck to the two-stall parking area to the west and to the driveway to the northwest. That's all flagstone walkways there, as we had on the previous set. And if you direct your attention to along Yankee Farm Road on the west, on the left side of the sheet, that two-stall parking area, which we had before, is still the same permeable pavers that we had previously, and we're showing a permeable paver apron along the driveway as well. And the driveway itself is a decorative gravel and the same materials that we proposed previously and reviewed when we did project design approval. Also around the pool area, we're showing flagstone paving there. And as Courtney mentioned, we've revised that deck on the north side of the building to eliminate the gap in between because of the width of those doors. And I just wanted to note, I think that's an advantage to the project aesthetically, as it's starting to tie in the materials that we're using as you exit on the north side or the south side of the property now with wood on both sides, instead of having stone on one and wood on the other. I think it's starting to really make sense with the decking material that we're using now in a different way, slightly different way.
Right.
We're also, of course, showing elements that we had in the previous design, which are the outdoor kitchen on the north side of the pool there. There's an overhead trellis, a swimming pool and spa, and a fire element to the east of the pool as well. Those are all just further refined, and I'm happy to take a peek at those details just very briefly. Let's switch over to...
I want to make sure we get a chance to cover our color and materials board. So why don't we, Cameron, if they got any other questions, they can come back to you on that. There's a separate file that if you could open up, that is the color and materials board. There you go. I just wanted to, we got 1 minute left, so I just wanted to cover this. These are the final selections on the corrugated metal roof, which matches the Benjamin Moore wrought iron. That is the actual pattern of the corrugated metal. The reclaimed barnwood siding, which is sort of consistent throughout, and the door design there, just to give you some sense of what's going on. The also exterior is a James Hardy vertical board and bat siding, which the color matches the existing, which is close, very close to a Benjamin Moore bone white. And then this shows you what the aluminum clad windows look like, a much more delicate, light detail than the vinyl. The existing asphalt shingle roof is a GAF Timberline Appalachian sky color. That's what we've matched with the new tile. And then these are the two wall sconces. The Darby wall sconce is on the house, and the other Moore wall sconce we put out on the barn because we kind of wanted them to look a little bit different, because that's the concept of this sort of compound. And then lastly, this in the corner there shows the Anderson folding aluminum clad doors on both the winch, so you can see how that opens up, and then the nano wall system down in to the far right, so sort of complements that. So I know we're out of time, and that's it. We're available for any question, to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. And now we can find out if there's any public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair James. If you are attending by webinar and would like to comment on this item, please follow the directions on screen and raise your hand by clicking the hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel, which will indicate to me that you wish to speak. Heidi, did we receive any written comment for this item?
Thank you, Barbara. And to the board, no, we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. So back to you.
Thank you. Vice Chair James, there are no hands raised, so I will hand it back to you for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's start with Mr. Motisha. Do you have questions for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Holliday. Is the original house, is it raised floor or is it a raised slab?
It is raised. It's a combination, actually. It's primarily raised floor. So there's area you can see from the two-story structure on the right over to about halfway through the main house. This house was built over a period of about 60 years. So and the structures on the left are slab on grade. So we kind of got a mixed bag with the floor material.
Okay, and you changed your deck from rock to wood. Is that what should I call it, permeable? Is it water? Does water drain through it, or is it drain the water off from the surface?
No, so the structure is all there, and we're going to leave the structure. So in the wood detail, the wood ebony lays down on top of all of the concrete slab there. So the water goes right through. It's just going to look like a wood deck where the water goes right through it. It's also going to be cooler than the stone. So on both sides, the water would pass through the wood. It's permeable.
So it's you're draining the water out into the landscaping.
Right, off the top, that's already sloped to get the water that comes down. We got gutters and downspouts on the structure, but any water that falls on the decks drains away from the house. Yes, good question.
Okay, that's my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motisha. Ms. Farrell, question?
So just a little question about the deck. Is that going to be real wood, or are you going to use like Trex material or something?
It's an ebony wood. Cameron, if you want to comment on this, we've kind of thought long and hard. It's like an Ipe. It's a sustainably harvested Brazilian hardwood. But the ebony, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that, Cameron?
Thank you.
Yeah, the Kebony is a real wood product, but it's a thermally modified product, wood product, so that it behaves similar to the exotic hardwoods. And it is, there's a picture of it on our materials board, which you saw last round, and I'm not sure exactly what page it is. Page 14 of the PDF L2.0. So there's a picture of that company if you want to zoom in on the wood deck and steps imagery. And so that gives you an idea of how the color ranges when it goes in new as well, and vent weathers.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. That was my question.
Kebony. Okay, Mr. Sweeney, question? Unmute, Fred.
Thank you. Sorry, keep it off just because of the background noise. You're here for final, so just a couple of questions on details. Can you show us the eave detail and the ridge detail of the new corrugated roof material on the garage?
Yes, we can. It's going to be A701, sheet A701. We've got the ridge detail, the 701. We'll get to the sheet here first. And then it's detail number 813. Yeah, you guys can see it. We got a lot of detail in here, so there you go. Detail number 13, or number 9 and 13 show that edge condition detail. This one is on the shingle roof, and then the detail to the right there shows the metal roof condition there, Fred, with the cap.
Okay, and so my question is the closure Z channel. The dimension of that is roughly on each edge 6 inches, 8 inches. Do we know?
I think it's got the ridge cap 4-inch and lapped with continuous, so they're lapping at 4 inches. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be about 6 inches. We haven't called out that detail.
Yeah, generally when I've seen these corrugated roofs when they're used, and they're very nice, is sometimes if you're not paying attention, the installer will put a really large flat piece up there, and it tends to oil can over time. So that's why I was asking the question. And then I thought I saw you go by a sheet that had the details for your new, your substituted trellis element. So do you have a detail or a section of what the end pieces look like?
Yes, we do. That's going to be, we'll tell you what sheet structural, A401 is got all the details on there. This is essentially matching what you guys have already approved. It's a engineered, to keep it this light, we had to go with an engineered wood truss, beam truss there. But yeah, it's going to be clad with the barn wood to match the finish. So there's a post for the structural drawings, but.
So Mr. Bolton, can you enlarge detail 3, please? 03?
Right.
It's hard to see on the screen. Oh, okay. So those are interior. Okay, thank you. That was all my questions. Thank you.
All the detailing is concealed, structural.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richards?
I don't have any questions. I remember the project from before, and I appreciate the changes you guys have made. The landscape plans are pretty impressive, so no questions at this time. Thank you.
Great. Am I leaving anyone out?
Madam Chair, I've got one final question, very quickly. I thought I heard Mr. Holliday say that all vinyl windows now have disappeared from this house, correct?
That is the That is a correct understanding. The existing, we were striving for consistency, and there's so many existing vinyl windows in the house that it, was cost effective to match those. But our client has decided they don't like the clunky style of those windows. So the new approval is for all the windows, existing and new, to be aluminum clad, with the same color to match the bone white.
Right. I appreciate that's going to cost more, but if your clients are in this house for 20 years, you're going to be very, very happy you spent the money now. Thank you.
Brad, that is exactly what I told them. So thank you.
You're not like me having to replace my windows now because all the first ones I didn't have enough money to do real good windows, and they're all having to get replaced. Thank you.
Okay, I do not have any questions. Let's move on to comments, and we'll start with Mr. Motisha.
No comments. I like the project. I think it fits our criteria very well, and it's a really nice remodel. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Farrell?
Yeah, just like Mr. Motisha, I'm very supportive of the project, and I think the small changes that you guys have presented to us today are acceptable, and I'm very supportive of the project.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney, did we ask you for comments?
No, not yet, but I will be in support of making a motion to approve for final.
Okay, Mr. Richards, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, I think it's a great project. Landscape plans are quite nice. I mean, it seems like it's going to be a beautiful property once all these improvements have been completed. So, a good job. I support it.
Thank you, and I will agree with my colleagues and be supporting the project, and appreciate the subtlety to detail that the designers and owners have done on the changes and improvements. So let us have a motion, and thank you.
Madam Chair, I would move for final approval. Mr. Hamilton, I believe all we need to make is final approval. All the other findings were done under project design approval. Is that correct?
Board Member Sweeney, and to the board, yes, that is correct. You may simply move for final approval as submitted if you think it's appropriate.
Okay, the motion should state so. Thank you.
Okay,
second.
Okay.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Heidi Rydell. I'll begin the roll call vote. We'll start with Board Member Motisha,
Yes, I agree. I support.
Board Member Richards,
Yes.
Board Member Sweeney,
Yes.
Board Member Ziegler,
Yes.
Board Member Farrell,
Yes.
Vice Chair James.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right, the motion passes, and
Great.
the project has a 10-day appeal process, which is now posted on our screen.
Great. Thank you very much. Very thoughtful comments. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I know we're all anxious to go eat dinner, and this is the last item, but unfortunately, because of the circumstances we've had to conduct our meetings in since March, we ordinarily at the end of this thing, knowing that 3 of you or 2 of you at least are leaving, we'd be celebrating. We'd be going out to Joe's for a beer, but none of that stuff is available to us. So I just wanted to, because I've been on this board a long time, not as long as Lisa. I think she was on the board when I got here. Lisa, I really want to thank you. Your commitment to this board has been exceptional. Your ability to step up and really help us out when it was needed. I as a fellow board member, I really appreciate it. And Jan, I hope they probably don't have a single family design board down where you're moving. But if they do, you need to step in and help them out. And I really, really appreciate the work you've done and your ability to step in and just be a good part of the board. I was hoping you'd stay long enough. You might even be able to serve as chair one of these days. But I wish you the best of luck. And Robert, let's cross our fingers that the city attorneys and the powers that be can help you stand this board for a little while longer. Anyway, I just wanted to make that clear before we left. I'm sure others may want to make comments, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Fred. It's been a real pleasure and an incredible learning experience for me being on this board. And I've appreciated getting to know you and working with all of you. You're just an incredible group of people, and I've enjoyed it immensely.
And I will echo the same sentiment. And this, I can't believe it's been 8 years, and it's just been an honor to serve and a huge learning experience. And I'm really going to miss it in a lot of ways. And I just thank you all for being wonderful humans. And thank you.
Great.
And
I just
Robert,
wanna say, I'll miss you
Robert, we
guys.
need you on this board, so I hope people make the right decisions.
All right, well, thank you all. I
I'll-
appreciate the time.
Great, thanks so much.
Fred, I saw I saw a program on the history of the Santa Barbara Airport last week.
Yes.
Excuse me. We
You
can
were-
let the applicants go if you want.
Yeah, see, the applicants can go have dinner.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go check out the star. Thanks so much.
Fred,
Happy holidays. Thank
Right.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Courtney.
Okay.
Come on.
And oh, I have a technical question. Mr. Hamilton, do we get you back in January?
Yes.
All right.
Board member Sweeney and members of the board, I'll be staffing HLC in the new year, but I will be, coming to SFDB meetings for a little while in January. I'll see you in the future. Yeah.
All right. Thank
And
you.
I do want to thank you all for your service as well, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. And I do need to just mention that we're on City TV, so we should keep this brief.
We have to sign off, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, I will close the meeting on December 21st, 2020 for Single Family Design Board, and happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all.